What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. The wild card is getting wild. That's why it's called the wild card, maybe. Let's talk about that, though. What I want to talk about today is the opponents of these wild card teams, the remaining schedule, and I want to give you my predictions, some predictions as to who I think will win the last wild card spot, or even there's still some division races up in the air. We're going to start off in the American League. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, simple stuff. We're going to start off in the American League. I want to talk about one specific team, the Guardians. They've been marching recently. They've been going crazy. I believe they're 9-1 in their last 10. Yeah, no, I'm right. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They have the opportunity to sweep the Detroit Tigers today, and if they do, that would bring them to what, 3 back? 3.5? I think it's 3.5 back. They're only 2.5 back in the wild card, but they're still a division race. 4.5. They're 4.5 back right now. They have the chance to sweep the Tigers today, like I just said. But then after that, they get 4 in Minnesota against the Twins, which there's a doubleheader in there, so that gets a little bit funky. But all reality, they could sweep that, at least if you win 3 out of 4. And then you get 3 home versus the Tigers. So there's a real chance that they can rattle off some quick wins against the Tigers and steal this division that the Tigers, for a majority of the season, had in the bag. It felt like it was given to them for a little while. Like, since the first 2 weeks of the season, it was like, all right, there go the Tigers. And now they're kind of slipping. And then the Guardians get 3 at home versus the Rangers, which may or may not have wild card implications. I don't think the Rangers are going to stick around. I don't even have them listed today because I really don't think they're sticking around very much or very much longer. But the Guardians having a real chance to still win the division is absolutely insane to me. The offense is still not great. They have a negative scoring differential. They're at minus 25 in terms of run differential, and they have a real chance at still winning the damn division. Even if they don't, they're 2.5 back. All they have to do is really hope that the Astros and the Mariners kind of kill each other, and there's a chance that they could slime their way in there. Cleveland's played really, really hot baseball recently. 6-game win streak right now they're riding on. I mean, their offense, like I said, it's still kind of iffy here and there. They win yesterday's game 4-0. They blanked the Tigers. Cade Smith has been nails recently. Haven't talked about him on the channel nearly enough. Cade Smith has thrown like 4 out of the last 5 days and has been nails in all of them. Bonkers what he's doing as a reliever right now, and especially with Clase out. Just looking at their schedule right now, the last time they scored 10 runs was last week against the Royals when they won 10-2. But otherwise than that, listen to their box scores. 2-0 win, 3-2 win, 4-0 win, 3-1 win, 3-2 win, 7-5. There you go. They put up 7 against Detroit, and then 4-0 yesterday. They don't score a ton of runs very often. They just pitch really well. They're getting really good contributions out of their rotation, and like I said, the bullpen, man. Guys like Tim Herron, Hunter Gaddis, that bullpen, man. Cleveland just puts together great bullpen year after year after year. They just do it, and their offense is good enough. Scroll up and down their offense, and like I said, you will be disappointed. They got a huge 2-run double out of Bo Naylor yesterday, but otherwise than that, Bo Naylor hasn't really been a consistent hitter. But you look at it, it's like Manzardo and Jose Ramirez are the only 2 hitters on the roster with an OPS plus over 100. They have 2 above league average hitters this year by OPS plus. But like I said, they have some solid pitching contributions. Like, all of their rotation members are like solid pitchers. Gavin Williams having a good year. He was a young prospect that was thought to be one of the best coming up. He had a rough start to the year, but he's really rounded out pretty well. Dodging injuries as well. He's been hurt often. Tanner Bybee's not pitching awful. It's kind of, again, league average. But like I said, their bullpen being nails, man. With Clase out, like I said, Cade Smith, Jakob Junis, Hunter Gaddis, Matt Festa, Joey Cantillo, Colby Allard. This team just gets arms in, and they work. And again, you sit around and you go, how do they win? I really can't tell you how they win games, because their starting pitching is like average, except for Gavin Williams, who's having a terrific year in like 160 innings. But their starting pitching in general has been pretty spotty. Their relief pitching has always been electric because their relief pitchers have always been really good. It feels like they put together this godlike bullpen every year. And like I said, their hitting is just kind of average at best. But here they are, 2.5 back in the wild card, 4.5 in the division, and they've already taken 2 out of 3 from Detroit. There's a chance they win this division, man. I said it before, I'll say it again, man. You have 3 against the Tigers at home. After you've already taken 2 out of 3 in Detroit, you have a chance to sweep them in Detroit and then get 3 more cracks at them at home. Insane what they've done. Cleveland does really well against their division. I actually want to check what their record is in division. Cleveland has a record of 30-14 in division against AL Central teams this year. They do a really good job at beating up on their own division. And it's really weird because, like I said, they are not an overly spectacular team. This team has underwhelmed me for a majority of the year. Stephen Kwan hasn't even been his usual self. These guys haven't been their usual selves this year except for Jose, and it's weird to find that they're still kicking. They are still fighting. Cleveland has a chance, and I'd say a pretty damn good one, to win this division if they end up sweeping the Tigers today. You just have to survive the doubleheader versus the Twins. It gets a little bit wonky. The Twins put up a really good fight at home against the Yankees the last few days. But overall, it's like the Twins aren't that strong. And then you get 3 versus the Tigers, 3 versus the Rangers. The Rangers might not even be in playoff contention by the time you see them. I just really like this Guardians fight, I guess. The fight that we're seeing out of them. They've crawled themselves out of a deep hole. They still have a negative run differential, like I said. They're just doing a really good job pounding back. But who do the Tigers get? The Tigers, they have a chance to get swept today, like I just said. But then they get 3 versus the Braves, 3 in Cleveland, and then 3 at Boston. 3 at home versus the Braves they should be able to handle, even though the Braves have been playing decent baseball recently. They've won like 5 straight. They've been playing pretty impressive, getting offense from like Profar in them. But then you get the 3 at the Guardians, which again I'm worried about, man. They have stunk it up recently against the Guardians. And then you get 3 at Boston, who's been playing not great baseball, but honestly good enough to where they could beat the Tigers 2 out of 3. There's a real chance this Tigers team ends up falling out of the division race, and they've controlled it all season. Am I overreacting? Probably. I think there's a chance that the Tigers go into Cleveland and pummel the hell out of Cleveland, and the Guardians would just kind of gone on a little bit of a run, a lucky winning spurt. But there's also a chance that this is realistic, and this is who the Guardians are. They've been a tough team for a while. They've made the playoffs like every year, I feel like, and this was the one year where they kind of fell off, but even late season, you still see kick and fight out of a team with a couple of veterans on them and a couple of young guys. But Detroit's biggest issue is pitching. Obviously Skubal leaves his start. Images come back clean. He's okay. But otherwise than that, their pitching's pretty bad. I'm going to say, was it Casey Mize is back? He's throwing relative. Is it Mize? I get Casey Mize and Jackson Jobe mixed up. It's the 4-letter last names with the E at the end. But whichever one has come back recently. It's otherwise than that, their starting rotation's pretty bad. Charlie Morton isn't good. Keter Montero, they're just needing him to eat innings at this point, and he's throwing a shit ton of innings, man. They're hitting spotty at best. I pointed it out in a video like a week or 2 ago, and I think one of the Tigers fans wasn't very happy with what I said about his team, that his team's hitting was spotty. It's not perfect. Their lineup is not perfect. Like, the real threat is Carpenter and Green. After that, it's like Zach McKinstry might sting you, Glaber might sting you, Torkelson might. But overall, like, they have a meat and potatoes of that order that's like, it's not a scary lineup. And their pitching's hurt and just going down consistently. Jack Flaherty's been bad this year. Tigers are in a really, really rough spot. And like I said, I might be overreacting, and this is just a lucky run by the Guardians, and it's going to get swept out. They're going to get bumped next week by the Tigers. That could realistically happen. But like I said, there's also a chance that if the Tigers go against the Braves at home, lose 2 out of 3 to the Braves, drop 2 out of 3 to the Guardians, they might miss the fucking playoffs, guys. We can move from the Central because the Central excites nobody. We can talk about the East. Yeah, let's talk about the East. Right now, I think the Blue Jays have this in the bag. They've been playing pretty good baseball recently. They get their last game at Tampa, but then they get 3 at the Royals, 3 versus the Red Sox, and 3 versus the Rays. They could do a real number on the Red Sox if they feel like it. That'd be brutal. But I think they're in a really good position to just close out and kind of walk away with the division win. They have a 4.5 lead, I believe, on the Yankees right now. Let me check that just to make sure. It's just 4. A 4-game lead on the Yankees. And again, at Royals, that's got to be 2 out of 3 at least. And then 3 more versus the Rays. That's at least 4 to 5 wins right there. And then versus the Red Sox, they could, again, do some real damage. Because if you go look at the wild card, the Boston Red Sox are 2.5 up on the Cleveland Guardians in the wild card spot. So again, you could do some real damage to each other. But I do think that this is one of my predictions. I just think the Jays are just going to close this. They've been playing such solid baseball recently, and even without Bo Bichette until the end of the regular season, I still have enough faith in Vladdy, Springer, Varsho. Even though he didn't play yesterday, Varsho's good. Kirky's good. You know, they've been getting contributions from everywhere this year. Miles Straw has been good. Come on now. So I just think they'll walk away with the division. For the Yankees have 4 at Orioles, 3 versus White Sox, 3 versus Orioles. They're 4 back in the division, and you have cupcake to end the year. You just got 3 versus the Twins. We took 2 out of 3. That's a good feeling. It was a scary 2 out of 3, but a 2 out of 3 nevertheless. The Twins team's starting to fight, but a lot of young guys over there. Much respect. But 4 at the Orioles. The Orioles are lacking pitching. You know, they can hit the ball sometimes. They can bat the ball. Don't get me wrong, but their pitching is atrocious. And then they get 3 versus the White Sox. The White Sox haven't been playing good ball recently. Things have kind of cooled down over there. The Yankees already swept them, I believe, earlier maybe last month. And then 3 versus the Orioles again. Again, that's 7 in-division games against the Orioles, so you can really pad your in-division record because it is not pretty for the Yankees this year. But you're 4 back in the division, and you have no more games against the Blue Jays, so it's kind of in a position where I feel like it's probably over chasing the division. What you need to do is now, though, is take 3 out of 4 from the O's, 2 out of 3 from the White Sox, 2 out of 3 from the O's, and sit comfortably in that top wild card spot. It sucks. You're going to have to see Boston probably, unless shit really starts shaking out weirdly. There's a high chance the Yankees see Boston, and they'll probably be at home for it. And I don't really want to see that because as much as I'd love to say that the Yankees beat the Red Sox in the playoffs, at the same time, they've done a pretty damn good job whooping the Yankees' ass this year for a majority of the year, except for the last 2 out of 3. And I'm not here to say that 2 out of 3 really means a lot more than the other 8 losses, you know? So I'm not going to sit here and pound my chest off that 2 out of 3 like it meant something crazy, even though it did give us a little bit of breathing room in the wild card. But the hitting has been really good for the Yankees recently too. So I have a good feeling in them making the top wild card spot and just clinching the top wild card spot. It's been such a weird season for them. I could really still see the Yankees somehow winning 90 games, and it's like this was kind of an ugly one. A really ugly one, especially, like I said, in-division record being terrible this year. And then having to face the Red Sox in the wild card doesn't really sound good to me. However, I must give my salute before we leave the Yankees to Trent Grisham. 33 home runs this season. Absolutely unreal. Carrying the offense for some stretches. Leadoff home runs. He's taking a ton of walks. I mean, this guy's been a spectacular leadoff hitter and at least a good enough center fielder. I have another video coming out soon that's baseball related, so if you're a baseball fan, stick around. It's about free agency because I know not every team is in the playoffs, even though it feels like it. In 2025, there's like 15 teams that make the playoffs. Not really that fun, but yeah, it's a video about free agency, so stick around if you're interested in that. Now we have the Red Sox. The Red Sox have this last game versus the A's, which they could lose or take 2 out of 3 from, and then you get 3 at the Rays, 3 at the Jays, and 3 versus the Tigers to end the season. The 3 at the Jays could really help your season, depending on where we're at that point. But like I said, I view that as kind of not pointless because the Yankees can still gain ground, but I don't think the Red Sox are taking the division. But 3 at the Rays, 3 versus the Tigers, 3 versus a struggling Tigers team. This is the time where you want to meet the Tigers. No offense, Tigers fans, but this is the time of the season where you want to see the Tigers, when they're limping down the stretch with no pitching. And Skubal is, I don't want to say he's hurt, but he left his last start hurt. I know the imaging came back clean, but if he's sore, he's probably not going to throw. If I was a betting man, would I say that the Sox stay in the playoffs? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would probably say that. Simply because I like Cleveland a lot, but I think the Mariners or the Astros will take care of each other, and it's kind of like them pushing each other down. And then if Cleveland can take advantage and take that bottom wild card, that's more up to them. But if I had to bet, I'd probably say the Red Sox are going to stay in, especially after that walk-off yesterday. You got to feel like the energy's got to shift. It all starts with Alex Bregman. He's been atrocious over the last month, 25 games-ish of being like a 500 to 600 OPS guy. Not good. And their pitching's kind of gotten dented recently. Like, Bayo got hit around by the Yankees. Giolito got hit around by the A's. You know, Crochet had a decent start against the Yankees. I'll give him credit. Ton of strikeouts, 6 innings. So I'll give him his credit. But the other two need to be there because if you think about it, after Crochet, Bayo, Giolito are the only protection that they have. Because once you go deeper than Bayo and Giolito, it gets uglier. You know, I like their young guys, but I don't trust them in a playoff setting. Like I said, if I had to bet, I'd put a lot of money on the Red Sox sticking in the wild card and probably having to face the Yankees, which again I don't want to see. So let's move on to the next one, and we can move on to the AL West. Houston Astros, they're tied for the division. Head-to-head matchup, 5-5 against the Mariners this season. So their last 10, they're 5-5 against each other. They have 3 versus the Mariners, 3 at Athletics, and 3 at the Angels. So you get, actually, the A's could take some runs off them real quick. The A's could take some games off them real quick. The A's are a tough offense, and the Astros don't have a consistent one, in my opinion. Yordan Alvarez goes out. He's probably done. I don't know what happened to him this season, but he cannot stay on the field. You got to feel bad for the guy. And their pitching staff is pretty hittable. You know, Hunter Brown and Valdez are pretty good, but after that, it kind of falls off. They're relying on Alexander to throw innings for them. 3 versus the Mariners, to me, will practically, honestly, I don't know about decide the division, but it seems like it could. Because you think about it, the Mariners have been hot. They won 10 straight. Going into yesterday, they lose yesterday, but they still got, again, a game against the Royals, who are sorry. I know they beat them yesterday, but that Adam Frazier home run was some bullshit if I ever seen it. That ball floated down the line and got out. But then you're talking about 3 at the Astros in Daikin. I know the Mariners, I think the Mariners have hit well at Daikin. And then versus the Rockies and versus the Dodgers. If you take 2 out of 3, if the Mariners take 2 out of 3 from the Astros, go into that Rockies series up like a game or 2, they could really pick up some steam because the A's are a tough team to beat. Though it is in Sacramento, and I believe the A's have been, bad at home. So, honestly, I don't know. Talk to me down below, guys, because this one's the hardest division to predict. The Astros or the Mariners, because these two teams have really been going at it this year. And with the Mariners' streak and how hot they've been playing recently, I would give them the edge going into their series against each other because, like I said, they've been hot recently, and the Astros haven't been playing terrible. Actually, the Astros are 6-4 in their last 10. Haven't been playing terrible, but with all the injuries, Yordan Alvarez going out, they don't have a left-handed presence in the lineup besides Jesus Sanchez, who's just kind of okay. 3 versus the Dodgers to end the season for the Mariners is kind of tough because you look at, on the other end, the Astros get 3 at Athletics, 3 at Angels. The A's at home are beatable, and the Angels in general suck. So you're talking about they get to face 6 games against teams that aren't playing for anything to end their year versus the Mariners, who get to face the Dodgers, who are still in a divisional race we'll talk about. So that's kind of brutal for them. But 3 versus the Rockies at home should be able to pummel them. If I had to bet, like I said, I'd go with the Mariners. That's just my gut feeling. Agree, disagree, talk to me down below, because like I said, this one's the hardest division to call. Switching over to the National League, it's a lot more and less to talk about, I guess. The Brewers are in. They get 3 at the Cardinals, 3 at the Padres, 3 versus the Reds. Doesn't really matter. They're probably not going to get caught in the division, and they're fine. They clinched their playoff spot. They're all good. The Phillies also clinched their playoff spot. They got 3 at the D-backs, 3 versus the Marlins, 3 versus the Twins. You get 3 versus the Marlins, 3 versus the Twins to end your year. That's a good little tune-up game. You get to beat up on some softies before you roll into the playoffs, so that's good. And on top of that, it's not like they're in-division big games, so your pitching can kind of not relax. Well, kind of relax, yeah, because of the pitching injuries they've had this year. I mean, you're talking about Nola missed a good chunk of the year. Wheeler's still out. Those are big misses. Can't afford to lose any more rolling into the playoffs. So the top 2 teams are good. You move into the West. The West is brutal. The Dodgers are only 2 up on the Padres. They have 4 versus the Giants, 3 at the D-backs, and 3 at the Mariners, which can really shake things up, but the Dodgers rotation has been nails recently. I want to see if I can find the Dodgers starting staff's ERA since August 1. It's been incredible. Since August 1st, Blake Snell has a 2.44 ERA. Yamamoto has a 2.74 ERA. Glasnow has a 2.76 ERA. Emmett Sheehan, I gave him props in my last video. He's been playing nails. He's been really good. Sheehan, 2.9 ERA. Kershaw, 3.4. Ohtani, 3.8. The Dodgers rotation leads MLB in ERA since August 1st. Their rotation's healthy, strong, and yeah, they're back to punishing teams in the starting rotation. Their bullpen's been so bad that their starters just need to be good. It's been brutal to watch. I mean, we're talking about handing over 6-7 inning, no earned run games and turning them into losses. The bullpen's been horrific for the Dodgers recently, so it's good to see that the starters have stepped up because at least you're giving the team a chance. 4 versus the Giants, I think the Dodgers will come in there, or will kind of step on that. The Giants played very, very well for a stretch, but they've kind of skid recently. And then 3 at the D-backs. The D-backs are playing interesting baseball. And then 3 at the Mariners, which, again, is also really interesting. But the Padres, in my opinion, have a chance still. You finish this series against the Mets today, you have a chance to win 2 out of 3 against the Mets. Then you're at the White Sox, versus the Brewers, versus the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks to end their season may or may not be playing for anything because I really don't like the Diamondbacks' schedule to end the year. It is brutal for the Diamondbacks. I really don't know if they'll make the playoffs because of how tough their strength of schedule is to end the year. But you're talking about with the Padres, Mason Miller's been absolutely money of recent. His time with the Padres has just been incredible. But with the Padres in general, you get to face the Mets, who've been horrific, for lack of a better word. They've been the worst team I've watched recently. They are a migraine to watch. And I still watch their games, cause even though I'm a Yankees fan, it's like everyone's like, why don't you hate the Mets? It's like, you can't hate the Mets, bro. That's like, that's like the little brother thing. You don't hate the Mets. You just kind of watch them and you facepalm. Because this is just as bad as, what was it, 07 or whatever, when they melted down. This team is falling apart at the seams. We can move on to the Mets. The Mets are facing the Nationals, and then they got 3 versus the Nationals, 3 at the Cubs, 3 at the Marlins. Ugh. I mean, you get 3 versus the Nationals, which that should be wins. These should be wins. 3 at the Marlins, that should be wins. And then 3 at the Cubs. The Cubs are clinching playoffs already. They're in. They're the top wild card, I believe, so they're good. These should be wins for the Mets, but the Mets starting rotation has just kind of failed them, in my opinion. You're talking about David Peterson getting shelled, missing guys. So many guys are hurt. Clay Holmes has been brutal, and I don't know why David Stearns would bank on Clay Holmes for a full season. I know he's been good this year, better than I expected for a first-year reliever turned starter. But for him to pitch a full season and you expecting a full season of quality work out of him feels kind of crazy, considering he is a bullpen arm turned starter. He's going to get fatigued. Later in the year, the guy's going to get fatigued. Kodai Senga, oh God, that's frustrating as hell as well. Again, this is a guy who gets hurt. He's pitching really well, gets hurt, comes back, gets hurt. He looked bad at some stretches post-injury. You thought he was playing injured. And then the hitting doesn't come through. You talk about last night's game against the Padres. Juan Soto has a chance to tie the game with 2 on, down 3 with 2 outs in the 9th. He hits a laser back up the middle, and it smacks Robert Suarez, and it becomes the easiest play of Robert Suarez's life. A comebacker hits Robert Suarez right in the ribs, and it's just an easy toss to first base. I mean, that's the harshest way to end the game because he really didn't even get a chance. He's probably out if that gets through because I saw the infield was kind of shaded up the middle. But either way, you'd like to see it play out rather than the ball hit the pitcher, bounce about 2 inches in front of him, and make it an easy underhand toss to first. But again, for the Mets, there's really no reason to not be able to make the playoffs here. You're facing the Nationals and the Marlins for 6 of your final games. Those need to be turned into wins. You know what I mean? For the NL West, I forgot to throw out my bet out there, but I'd probably still... I don't know. I'd probably go with the Dodgers. The Padres are frustrating. Every time it feels like the Padres get a chance to take the division and really take reins of the NL West, they don't. They're talking about they get swept I think that was at LA when they got swept. That's embarrassing shit. But it's like every time it feels like they have the door open, they don't go through it. And I don't know what I don't know what else to say about that, man. That's brutal. But after all, man, after all this, their bullpen's still money, and they're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be one of the toughest outs of any. I think they are maybe the toughest out of any wild card team. No disrespect to the Cubs, but the Padres with that elite bullpen, even without Jason Adam, is still really tough. The key to beating the Padres is that you got to kill their starting pitching because it's pretty bad. Nestor Cortez is in there throwing a ton of innings. He's not good. I think he was Yankees made. People fell for that trap. He's Yankees made. That's a Matt Blake find. That's a Matt Blake creation, and it doesn't work outside of Matt Blake. But the other rotation members, they got Darvish. He's mid. He's mid this year. He's old, and I don't know why they paid him that much money. Michael King hurt. Nick Pavetta's ace. I don't know. It's really weird, and I don't like their starting pitching. That's the key to beating the Padres. You can't trail them going into the 5th or 6th because the game's over. Once you trail the Padres going into the 6th inning, you might as well turn the TV off. if you're up on the Padres after 6, you got a pretty damn good chance of winning if your bullpen's solid. The Diamondbacks, 1.5 games back of the Mets in the last wild card spot. They get 3 versus the Phillies, 3 versus the Dodgers, 3 at the Padres. That's what I mean by I don't know if the Diamondbacks can do this. 3 versus the Phillies. Again, that's one of the best teams in the NL. 3 versus the Dodgers. The Dodgers are still in the division race, so they're going to be playing 100%, and you're going to face that starting rotation that's been really tough this year. 3 at the Padres. Again, similarly, it's like you can't trail them going into the 6th against the Padres, and they're 3-3 versus the Mets this year, so the tiebreaker's still not decided. I feel confident in the Diamondbacks. Lourdes going out kind of takes a hit on their, in my opinion, for like how I feel about them. Lourdes not being there, the top of their order is so top heavy. You're talking about like Perdomo, Marte, Carroll at the top, but the bottom of their order gets really ugly. This is last night's game against the Giants. The batting order for the Diamondbacks was Perdomo 1, Marte 2, Carroll 3, Moreno 4. So far, you're like, Gabby Moreno 4, that might be a bit of a stretch, but he's having a pretty good year. He's got an 800 OPS, whatever. After that, Blaze Alexander, James McCann, Alec Thomas, Tim Tawa, Jake McCarthy. Nobody fears that. And they lost yesterday's game. Brandon fought through the best game of his season, maybe the best game of his professional career yesterday, and he gets no decision, and they fucking lose. That made me mad. Not often do I see a team that's not Yankees related get me really mad. That shit steams my broccoli. All right, that makes me really mad. When a pitcher goes 9 complete game shutout and fucking loses. He doesn't get tracked with a loss, but the team loses. Embarrassing. The Reds are 2 games back. They get 4 versus the Cubs, 3 versus the Pirates, 3 versus the Brewers. They're 4-2 against the Mets this season. They have the tiebreaker. 2 back, but again, it's another team where it's like, how do they win games? It's the pitching. The pitching is really good. Green, Abbott, Singer. Singer threw well yesterday, even though it was only like 5 1/3, 5 2/3. It's a pretty good outing. 2 games back, 4 versus the Cubs, who I don't know if they're playing for a lot, I would say, but they're playing. 3 versus the Pirates, 3 versus the Brewers. The Brewers might not be playing for anything either, but I think an in-division foe would want to keep you out of the playoffs, so maybe they still go 100%. A lot of in-division games for the Reds to end the year. Like I said, that's what, all of them? I like the Reds season this year, but it's kind of disappointed me. There's a chance they still finish under 500 for a team that was really, really good at one point. And to me, it all points to the offense, the entirety of it. There isn't a single player that doesn't deserve blame for how bad their offense has been. Ellie De La Cruz is obviously the engine, and he's been substandard this year, like not great. How much WAR does he have this year? Ellie currently sits at 3 WAR. That's it. 3 WAR. And this is your 23-year-old phenom all-star, one of the best hitters in the league, one of the best players in the league, and he's got, I mean, it's not a bad year. You're talking about a 105 OPS plus, 766 OPS. It's not special. It's not what you want out of Ellie. And even the guys that I thought would step up have not. Not even close. My guy, Matt McLain. Ugh, what a stinker of a year he's had. Steer's my guy. I love Spencer Steer. He's been bad recently, too. TJ Friedl is a walks demon. I like TJ Friedl. Plays good center field defense and walks a good amount. And then I also like, what's his name? Jake Fraley and Noelvi Marte. But it's an ugly offense. Miguel Andujar has been probably their best hitter as an acquisition midseason. I just don't have a ton of confidence in the Reds. They're another team that feels like they just shoot themselves in the foot every time there's a real chance to do something. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And speaking of shoot themselves in the foot whenever they can, the San Francisco Giants, they're also only 2 back in the Mets. But I think, honestly, I don't like the outlook of their season. 4 at the Dodgers. They might get swept. I like the Giants, but they're playing 4-6 baseball. They're starting to tail off a little bit, and the 4 at the Dodgers doesn't bode very well for them, especially since the Dodgers still got to cinch up and clinch the division. And then you get 3 versus the Cardinals, 3 versus the Rockies. That can really be really well to end your season. That can work out really well. It all depends on how you play that 4 at the Dodgers. The NL final wildcard spot really comes down to who stinks it up less, and I think that is ultimately the funniest thing about these playoffs. The Mets seemingly don't want to make the playoffs, it feels like. They lose every gut-wrenching loss you can imagine. The D-backs are not a great pitching staff, but also such a top-heavy lineup that you don't know if you can even trust it. The Reds have a demon pitching staff and a great bullpen, but are substandard hitting, below-average hitting team. And then the Giants haven't hit well all year, really. And they made a good push at the end, calling up the young guys. But again, you're still only sitting at 500, and it hasn't come all together for them. Is this me saying that the NL wildcard is going to be 1-0 and the Mets are just going to walk away with it? Hey, I don't want to say it, but there's a chance that it happens. Talk to me down below. Where do you guys think these wildcard teams are going to end up? If you enjoyed, like, subscribe. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to catch the game. See you guys in the next.